But even more, you bleed, that's right. And so the physicians had the issue, well, do we let our patients bleed, or do we do something else to treat diabetes, to treat that inflammation? And so inflammation precedes diabetes, and it begins in the fat cells.
Okay, so as your fat cells begin to swell, we think that the mechanism, how it works, is it begins to put pressure on the mitochondrium. And when it does that, it alters the nature of the cell. The cell will change, and it becomes what we call metabolically active. We now believe that the endocrine cell, we believe that the fat cells in the body, the adipose tissue, comprises the largest endocrine gland in the body. You know, like the thyroid gland, like the thymus gland, and other glands that give off hormones. When your thyroid gland gives off the wrong kind of hormones, you get a goiter. So the doctors oftentimes would do surgery for that to resolve that problem. Or they try to control it with medication if it's young. Anyway, there's, are they going to remove all your fat tissue?
No.
A liposuction, maybe that's something we ought to talk to them about. but no, what happens is the body becomes metabolically active, and it begins giving off a lot of chemicals that cause inflammation. And we now know, recent medical literature is just full of all kinds of studies where they are relating various illnesses to inflammation. So I want to talk a little bit more about that. What happens when you get an injury, for instance? If you have inflammation that develops in your fat tissue, that causes insulin resistance. Does that mean anything to this group now? Okay, that means that when you develop inflammation in the fat tissue, it's making your diabetes worse. When those cells become metabolically active, then your diabetes just goes out of control. You are not able to control it anymore. And inflammation of the brain causes something called leptin resistance. Now we're going to talk about that next week. But when you develop inflammation in the gut, it causes both leptin resistance and insulin resistance, and both of these things really drive the diabetes engine. So when you have an injury, for instance, you will develop a localized inflammatory reaction. And most everybody knows these signs. You're going to have things like redness. You know, I skinned my shin the other day. You know, I just bumped into something and skinned a bunch of stuff. And now the front part of my leg is red. You feel it, hot to the touch. And so you have redness, swelling, heat, and pain. Typically those four symptoms. So if I cut my finger, redness, swelling, heat, pain. That's tomorrow what happens, you know. Little pain today, but tomorrow is when you get the swelling and everything that goes along with it. That's considered healthy. You know, because what happens, you have this swelling, the spaces between the cells widen out, it lets white blood cells in there to help fight off bacteria that may have invaded the area, to bathe the cells with healing nutrients and things it needs to get well, and all this kind of stuff will happen. The heat, it's because of increased circulation to that area as the body's trying to heal. That's all very good. But with diabetes, with oxidative stress that occurs with diabetes, what happens is you develop a low level of inflammation throughout the whole body. And it's sort of like getting the flu. You just feel bad all the time. You know, you never get to optimal health level. You just feel bad. And it becomes a basis for a lot of disease. Well, this can be stimulated by bacteria. It can be stimulated by viruses, food, or environmental triggers as well. And the local response is okay, but systemic inflammation is not. So what we want to do is we want to figure out how we can put out the fires of oxidative stress. So Karen told us about something called an antioxidant. An antioxidant. So I did, that's one of them. She says CoQ10, yes, that's one of them. So we did a deep dive into antioxidants, studying antioxidants. And I sat down to my computer and I said, foods high in antioxidants. And I came up with this list right here.
Sorry.
And these are ranked in numerical order, the top 100 foods. And the oxygen radical absorbance capacity is a number that is on the right side. So you see cloves, ground cloves, it has an assigned number of 314,000. Guys, that is very high. How many of you are going to eat a pound of cloves or a cup of cloves?
Maybe a quarter teaspoon in a big recipe.
Quarter teaspoon in a big recipe, maybe. Turmeric, the most studied botanical on the planet. Well, more than 5,000 scientific studies have been done just on turmeric because of its antioxidant properties. 159,000, that's less than half of, it's right about half of what cloves has, but it's still extremely high. But how much turmeric can you eat?
16, depends on what you're eating it with.
Yeah.
Depends on what you're putting it with, she says.
It's just generally not very much, is it? It's generally not very much. But I know people that have gotten significant pain relief from taking turmeric, not because it is an analgesic, but it's an anti-inflammatory. And once you take the anti-inflammatory, usually for me it took about 3 days to significantly lower my pain levels, when I was having a lot of pain. But anyway, it did help. It did help. But looking down through that list, dried parsley, I don't know. I mean, I can eat a little more of that, but not a lot. And baking chocolate. Yes. That's the dark stuff, the unsweetened. Okay? So you can't do really a whole lot of that. Let's look at the next list. Okay, how about, let's look down through here. Goji berries. Now, I like those. Semi-sweet chocolate. We're getting better now, huh? Pecans, yes. And looking at the next side, elderberries are not too many. There's walnuts, hazelnuts, pears, dried pears. Interesting. Okay, next list. We're kidney beans and pink beans and black beans and pistachios and
currants.
Let's see. Oh yeah, currants and plums, apples, blueberries. There's your blueberries. Soybeans, blackberries, cilantro, almonds, dill. Okay, now we go to cowpeas and apples and peaches and raisins and peanut butter and currants and figs and cherries and broccoli and cabbage and peanuts and gooseberries and pears and etc. But one question. Where's the beef?
It's not on there. That was in a commercial many years ago.
She's right. It was in a commercial many years ago. No, it is not on here because we're looking at the foods that are highest in the antioxidants. And if we're going to find the foods that are highest in antioxidants, where would we find them? Green leafy vegetables. Do you remember the food choice list from 2 weeks ago? Remember what the very top category was? And it was green leafy vegetables, and right under that was colorful vegetables. Yes, and then we had beans and starchy vegetables and fresh fruits and whole unrefined grains and etc. Guys, does this look familiar? Yeah. So that is the answer to oxidative stress, is we need to do more of this stuff. Now, Dr. Brooke Goldner happens to be probably one of the top lifestyle physicians in the world right now. And she was in medical school. She had developed lupus. Anyone know what lupus is? Yeah, I see several heads nodding. Lupus is an autoimmune disease that people will get. And, oftentimes these people have multiple hospitalizations, and they will, just be sick. They won't be able to bear children or anything. And Dr. Goldner found herself going down that path. And, a number of times throughout medical school, she had to be hospitalized because she was having an exacerbation of the illness. And somebody talked to her one day and suggested that she do a lifestyle approach and eat high nutrient, high antioxidant foods. And she did. And her lupus went into remission. She now has children. She works from home. She runs an online medical practice helping all kinds of people with autoimmune problems to reverse. But that also includes type 2 diabetes. She's helped a lot of people reverse their type 2 diabetes because her approach reverses oxidative stress. And one of the things that she says is you want to get high nutrient foods. You want to really load your body up with really high nutrient foods. Now, we've talked about high nutrient foods. The way some people try to do that is they try to do it by juicing. And I don't really subscribe to that because we've studied now about fructose and fiber, how important it is to have them in balance together. And evidently Dr. Goldner feels about the same way that I do about those two. So she recommends smoothies, what she calls hypernutrition. Now there's several things that you really need for the body to heal itself. One is you need to have omega-3s present because the omega-3s are important in building cellular structures, on repairing the cells, building the cells back to their original level. But you also need foods that are super high in nutrition, and as we all know now, the green leafies are very high in nutrition. So she talks about green smoothies. Now, if you're not used to eating green smoothies, this probably looks repulsive to you. But guys, if you've tried her recipe...
We had the one that
Mike brought his
did.
blender and actually did us a green smoothie. And
Little
it was
tiny.
good.
Was
now,
delicious.
what Dr. Goldner recommends is like a 3-week trial where you, once every day for 3 weeks, you do hypernutrition. And so you start out with a blender, and you want to put some omega-3s in. So that would be things like flax seeds or chia seeds or hemp hearts or walnuts. And typically it's about 1/4 cup of those.
It's a half cup. If you read the bottom of the screen, the smoothie.
Oh, excuse me. Yes,
half a cup. This is just for this time when you're trying to give your body a big boost and heal, do some real intensive healing, and then you can cut back and use less. But because that's quite a bit of chia or flaxseed, but what I like to do at home is I'll use part of the chia and part walnut. So we're not getting the whole half a cup of those. The walnuts also have the omega-3s in them that you need for the cells, the walls of the cells to heal.
But she'll take 4 cups, and she's not really exact about this. Actually, she'll tell you, take your blender and put your greens in there and pack them down with your fist into the blender. That's what you start with. Just pack the greens in there until the blender is 3/4 full of packed greens. That's a lot, yeah. You go down to like to Walmart and you can get the spring mix or something like that. You already have a variety of 4, 6, or 8 kinds of greens. I don't know how much is in there. I don't mean how many varieties. But anyway, you pack that into the blender. And then on top of that, you'll put that half cup of chia seeds or hemp hearts. Then the rest of the way, you fill the blender full to the top of fresh seasonal fruit. Apples, oranges, or any other kind of citrus that you want to use. You can use plums or peaches or mango, or you name it, a fresh banana. You put that in there. Pineapple works great in here. Any kind of blend of fruit, you fill it up with that, and then you take water and pour water in, and watch as the water level rises through the greens. When it gets to the top of the greens, then you stop. Put the lid on. Don't do what I did. Don't turn the blender on without remembering to put the lid on. Green stuff went everywhere. Oh, it's a disaster. From the ceiling to the floor.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So put the lid on.
Put the lid on, then turn the blender on, run it for about 20 seconds, and you have a delicious green smoothie. Drink 1 pitcher full a day. You can divide it between your meals, but just drink 1 pitcher full a day for 21 days and see if it doesn't turn off your oxidative stress. Most people, when they do that, will start to feel better. They have a lot more energy and things of that nature. But it makes a real good way to take care of the problem. Now, these foods are high in refined sugars and refined grains and things like that. The fats cause inflammation. It causes an overactive response for the immune system. So you typically want to try to avoid these kind of foods while you're doing it. Yes?
And so along this 1 pitcher day, I can eat other food as well?
Yes, you can eat whatever else you want to eat. Just make sure that you get your green smoothie first. Do your allotment of that.
So his question was, could he eat other foods for our online folks? Do you eat other foods in addition to having the green smoothie?
Yeah,
and yes.
Eat whatever you want to, whatever is on your diet. But this will give you that boost toward resolving the oxidative stress. So I want you to go on a virtual grocery store tour with me. In the body, when the body has lots of when it has lots of energy, you can think of the fire that is caused from burning your food as you can think of that metabolism that happens as a fire, okay? And if you have lots of fuel present, it'd be like a pile of tires burning. There's going to be lots of black smoke, and that black smoke would represent the free radicals that are being formed. Because when you have calorie-rich foods, typically you have a lot of free radicals that are formed. In the body, if there is it's not a calorie-dense food, then the body has it does a real clean burn. Okay? So you can have a dirty burn, lots of free radical formation, or you can have a clean burn with very little free radicals being formed. So you've got to think about the foods that you're choosing as you go into the grocery store and ask yourself, is this clean burn or is this a dirty burn? Okay? So I go into the grocery store, and on my way to the produce section, I pass one of those tables, and it has some nicely decorated iced cookies. I get a package of that and put it in my cart. Clean burn or dirty burn?
That's dirty.
That is a dirty burn. Very good. I go to the produce section and I grab a package of carrots and put it in my cart. Clean burn or dirty burn?
Clean.
Okay. Go down the way and there is one of those prepared containers of chopped fruit, and I put one of those in my cart. Clean burn or dirty burn? Clean burn again. Very good. I go around the end of the aisle, and as I do, I pass a freezer chest full of pepperoni pizzas. I grab a pizza and put it in my cart. Clean burn or dirty burn? Dirty burn. Yes, absolutely. And, okay, then we go down the aisle, and as I'm heading down the aisle, I see a special. I love specials. Food's on sale. And it's some wafers. Wafers, cookies. Well, not vanilla. Well, it could be. Yeah, it could be vanilla wafers. But you got these, I was thinking these wafers that they make, and they put cream fillings in it, like Nutty Bars or something. Yeah, sugar wafers. There you go. That's what I was thinking about. But anyway, clean burn or dirty burn on those? Okay, and so we go down the next aisle, and I pick up a bag of baked corn chips. Clean burn or dirty burn?
Clean. Dirty.
Now we have differing opinions here.
You said they're baked
Yes,
corn chips.
baked corn chips.
So they should be clean.
Oh, she says it's because of the amount of sodium. Actually, you'll find that there are some foods that are sort of in between foods. Okay, so just when you're shopping, be asking yourself clean burn or dirty burn. But be careful. Just watch over your shoulder, because when the white coats start coming after you,
Because you're going
clean
down
burn,
the
dirty
aisle,
burn, clean
going,
burn, dirty burn, dirty burn, clean burn. You know that. You might need to run fast because they might be on their way to lock you up. Oh, Doc, we just need to have fun with this. Okay, let's talk about sources of antioxidants. Where are you going to get your antioxidants from?
From good fruits and vegetables.
Well, you know, I have a lot of people that don't say the good fruits and vegetables. What they say is they say, oh, well, I'll just go down to the store and I'll buy a bottle of antioxidants. Well, you know, we've done a lot of studies on those. And we have learned that when you take the antioxidant pills, it does not decrease the number of free radicals in your body.
It increases the money in their pocket.
It does do that. It does increase the money in their pocket, but it does not increase the free radicals, and it does not increase your lifespan either. In fact, it may increase your risk of death. And vitamins C, E, and beta-carotene. They're great antioxidants, but it doesn't work.
Steve,
So it does not make it into
the supplements do not decrease the free radicals in the body,
oh, what did I say?
increase.
Oh, I'm sorry, I said it wrong. It does not decrease the free radicals. Absolutely, thank you. But what we believe, the reason is you remember back in lecture 1 we were talking about getting the glucose into the cell and how we have to have insulin come along and attach itself to the outside of the cell, which sends a bunch of signals through the cell, a door opens, and then you can get the sugar in. The cell membranes are very particular about what they let into the cell. And evidently, there is some kind of thing similar to insulin that is available in our food supply that is not available in the nutritional supplement.
That
and
could be.
It acts as a transporter, or it acts as something that activates a transporter that allows the antioxidants to get into the cell. Because one of the things that we have learned, excuse me, can you move on to the next slide? Yes, thank you. What we've learned is you have an antioxidant defense system. And when you will eat the colorful fruits and vegetables themselves, they contain whatever that transporter is, and it does allow those antioxidants into the cell, down to the mitochondria where it will do good, and it will decrease your oxidative stress. So you've got to get the antioxidants into the cell. And the only way we know how to do that is to eat the foods that cause that to happen. Another way that you can do that is you can provoke your body to stimulate antioxidant production. You know, when God created you, He put in a very delicate mechanism, and when you're exercising and your body is creating more free radicals, it also increases its production of some substances like superoxide dismutase, or there's just a variety of other antioxidants that your body will produce that will actually help reduce the level as well. So if you're, there are about 60 chemicals that we get in our food that are known to decrease this. And we know that daily moderate exercise helps reduce the number of free radicals, and also simply eating less. It was in the mid-1930s, He was a physiologist. Leonard Hayflick was his name. And he came up with something that we know as the Hayflick limit. But he was testing mice, for instance. And he discovered that if you fed mice 1/3 less, they would live 1/3 longer. Look carefully at the lifestyle of people that live to be 100 years old. One of the characteristics you will discover is they eat sparingly. They may only eat 2 meals a day, but when they eat, they don't eat a lot. They eat until they're almost full, and then they typically stop. They'll go out to eat, and they'll save it for another meal. You're probably in that category.
I think I'll live to be about 150.
Well, there you go. Give her a hand. Yes, that's wonderful.
One of the gentlemen here is saying that his wife should live, based on that, she should live to be about 150.
But
My
that-
stepdad was this way. We would go out to eat with him, and his dinner would be served, and he would very carefully just portion off, and he only ate half of it. He would take the other half home, and he died in his sleep at 105. It was amazing.
That's quite something. You go to sleep one night, and you wake up the next morning dead.
Okay, Mr. Wickham. Moving on. So, antioxidant.
No. I want to hang on a minute. I want to talk about that because, I may be stealing my thunder from a future lecture, but we have a choice. How we live determines how we're going to live, and we can make choices that allow us to live healthier longer. And we make choices that cause us to live with disability. You guys have made a choice to come here and learn about lifestyle things that other people have done that help them reverse diabetes. So you can mimic the same thing. What kind of impact do you think it has on your lifespan? The average person with diabetes will live about 10 years less than the average person without diabetes. And what do you think happens when you unload the diabetes? You're not only unloading diabetes, but you're unloading strokes, you're unloading heart attacks, you're unloading amputations, you're unloading kidney dialysis, you're unloading all kinds of other stuff. And so really it has a big impact. So these choices are very important. So we want to get a combination of fruits and vegetables because that's what will contain the widest variety of antioxidants. And it causes, when you do that, it also causes the spent antioxidants to recharge.
What does he mean by spent? Yes, they've given off all of their
Extra electrons, yeah.
And so it recharges them. They get those electrons back.
There was Dr. Poljak did an extensive study about this, and he's from Slovenia or something like that. But he studied the diets, and he says that young people, 80% of children and adolescents today are eating nutrient-impoverished diets. And he says that 65% of adults are doing the same thing. It's because we're eating so much of our foods prepared. If we live closer to the garden, where you go outside and you pick something off and off the plant and you eat it right away, those are the most nutrient-rich foods that you can possibly eat. The average, in the first 3 or 3.5 days, you'll lose up to 60% of the nutritional value of your food once it's been picked off the vine in the first 3-something days. The average food in the grocery store has traveled 1,200 miles to make it to that grocery store. But, so it's taken more than the 3.5 days to get there. Nonetheless, we were doing a program in a grocery store up in Grundy County, and the manager was there talking to us about what we were trying to accomplish and what we were educating the public about, etc. And we were talking about high nutrient foods. And he pointed to the produce section. You want high nutrient foods? He says, there's your gold mine. He said, but people won't shop there. They want it all prepared in the package, ready to go. So we've got a little work to do if we're going to do this way. But the store manager was right. Even though the food has lost already probably greater than 50% of its nutritive value, it is still the gold mine of the grocery store. So if you can't grow it yourself, buy it in the produce section. That's great stuff. Great stuff. Anyway, so.
And then activity after meals. That's important to help get the sugar levels and the insulin levels down to help stop that stress.
Karen talked about the 3 spikes that occur, after the meals during the course of the day, or sometimes it's 4 or 5, depending upon how many snacks you eat. Okay, after every meal. That's one of the reasons why we want you to walk, is because when you walk, it lowers the sugar spike, it lowers the insulin release, it lowers your level of oxidative stress. So the exercise after the meal is important for that. So stress does play, talking about other kinds of stress. Stress, whether it's psychological or emotional or physiological stress, that stress will create oxidative stress in the body. It creates inflammation. So, if you're having an altercation with your spouse at home, somehow you need to deal with that. Whether it's a book, or whether it's just scheduling time together, or whether it's going for professional counseling, you need to deal with whatever those sources of stress are. Try to identify sources of stress and deal with them. And because stress reduces the effectiveness of your immune system, and it reduces the ability of your body to deal with antioxidants, and it causes more free radicals to be formed. So I know Dr. Herman Johnson, who was, he wrote the first stress reduction seminar. And Dr. Johnson told me one day, he said, Steve, of all the things that we know that will help us reduce stress, there's one that far and above everything else helps you manage stress. And that's a walk with somebody at the end of a day. When was it that God came looking for Adam and Eve? In the evening, in the cool of the day, he came looking for them. And so that's a very important thing for us, I think. I think it was an example that, it's not directly spelled out, but indirectly it's there. And a walk with somebody at the end of the day. Ladies, your man. Men come home at the end of the day, you say, oh, how was your day at work? I was okay. He sits down in the chair. Well, tell me what happened. Oh, not much. Well, what'd you do? No, it's just general run-of-the-mill stuff. He picks up the paper, buries his nose in the paper. You've been dealing with stress all day. Women have a gift. They just talk all day long. They don't want you to solve their problems, but they can talk all day long. Men aren't that way. They internalize their stress. He won't talk. He talks all the time. Well, maybe he's a cut above.
I'm a gifted man.
There you go. He's a gifted man. There you go.
I learned to put my hand up for my husband to be quiet.
Well, if your
Okay.
husband talks that much, you're just blessed because you're married to a gifted husband. Most men are not that way. You know why? It's because they're brain damaged. In utero, their brains are bathed with high levels of testosterone.
He can say this, not me.
It destroys a portion of the brain called the corpus callosum. It's the crossover between the 2 hemispheres of the brain. And so his wiring is interrupted. You watch little boys play. What do? Wah, ya, woo. It's all these kind of sounds. They don't know how to talk. They can't get it out. They can't make it happen. So they do all this stuff. Well, what you need to do, when your man comes home, let him sit in the chair, whatever. You feed him the supper, and after supper, you go for a walk together. 20 minutes into the walk, his brain gets healed. The corpus callosum reconnects. and he'll start talking. And he'll talk, and he'll talk. He'll tell you all about his day. He doesn't want you to solve his problems, but he wants to unload on you. And you'll go back home, and you're tired, and you go to bed, and you'll put the pillow over your head, and he's sitting over there just talking away, you know. So
He's asleep by the time
She says
dear.
he's asleep when his head hits the pillow. Okay, well,
But
the Lord has made us all as individuals.
But this is one of the best things that you can do to help alleviate stress. And it will also help you reduce oxidative stress. Now, Dr. Polchak went on to say chronic stress is, caused from all these reasons, but he says excessive psychological stress should be avoided, and we should take time to relax and enjoy the things that we like doing. If you haven't written out your bucket list, do so. Then start working on it. Life will become so much more rewarding. And anyway, supplements. After all the bad things I've said about supplements, there are some supplements that I think you need to have a discussion with your doctor about. The typical person with diabetes will oftentimes have deficiencies in these areas. Now, rather than go home and just prescribe for yourself, talk to your doctor and let them order a test. It's a simple little test he can do for each one of these things to know if you're deficient in the area. Like I said, nutritional supplementation can increase your risk of early death, and it does not help oxidative stress in most cases. But in these cases, if a person is documented to be low in these areas, then supplementation has a great deal of value. Well, let's take magnesium, for instance. In the southeastern United States where we live, one of the primary sources of magnesium happens to be our water supply, but the ground levels of magnesium are deficient in this area. And so oftentimes it's really common for people to develop, especially as they get up in years, they develop a magnesium deficiency. And this is very common in people with diabetes. So you need to know about that one. Coenzyme Q10 levels also decrease as people age. It plays a major role in mitochondrial metabolism. That's the burning of the fuel in the furnace. So this can have a significant impact on your diabetes reversal as well. And it's also important for gene expression. So you need to know where you are on CoQ10. Another thing is vitamin D. At the 38th parallel or northward in the wintertime, we typically are not exposed to enough sunshine in order to make the vitamin D that we need. And so oftentimes it's really common as well to have vitamin D deficiencies, especially as we age. So those things I want you to talk to your doctor about. Not on my slide, but probably another thing from some recent study I've been doing that you need to talk to your doctor about is potassium levels. Because potassium levels are associated, in many cases, low potassium levels are associated with elevated levels of insulin resistance. So 4 things that you need to talk to your doctor and ask him to test you on to see if you need supplementation. Now, there's one other thing that we can do to stabilize our metabolism. We're really talking about a whole lifestyle approach, a total lifestyle approach. And as you get into the literature and study it, these things just keep coming up. Moderation in everything. I talk about how good water is, but is it good to drink 4 gallons of water a day? Mm-hmm. No. We need to be moderate in what we do. 3 to 4 quarts of water a day, or 8 to 10 8-ounce glasses. That will put you at about 3 liters a day, which is 3 quarts. So it depends on whether it's summertime or wintertime, how much sweating you're doing, that kind of thing. Adequate rest. We've gone over this briefly before, but it's very important for a person who's trying to reverse their diabetes to try to get an adequate amount of rest. Fresh air is important as well. One of the big sources of antioxidants would be air pollution.
No, free radicals.
Excuse me. What did I say?
Antioxidants.
No, I'm talking. There I go again. Okay.
Free
I'm glad you know what I'm
radicals.
saying because they don't online. So yeah, the free radicals, one of the sources is air pollution. The most polluted air on the planet is inside your home.
If you don't open your windows and air it out.
Yeah, open your windows for a few minutes every day. Throw the doors open. Let the breeze blow through. Even if it's wintertime, you want an air exchange. You want to get some of the negative ions out of there. Get some positive ions in there. Grow plants in your house. That also helps. There's a bunch of things that we can do to help freshen our air. Nutrition, a balanced nutrition. We've talked about that the whole class. I'm not going to say anything more, but it's really important. Daily moderate exercise. You know, individuals that don't get daily moderate exercise have a much harder time reversing. You usually will plateau somewhere down here. You'll improve quite a bit, but you'll oftentimes plateau. You won't make it all the way to reversal unless you add that in. Adequate water and exposure to sunshine for your vitamin D levels and for lots of other reasons. And even we've found out trust in God. There's some studies that are going on with a physician out in California, or a doctor out in California, and she's working with a bunch of brain surgeons. And one of the things that they are studying is prayer, because they have learned from various scientific studies, if individuals pray, when that happens, their brain emits electrical impulses. And they will experience higher levels of healing. And if you're praying for someone, I mean, you might be here in Middle Tennessee praying for somebody down in Florida, and they don't know that you're praying for them, but they've done studies where people that are praying for others down there, there's electrical changes that happen in the brain of the individual down there, healing impulses. So we need to be a kind of people that we are connected more closely with our Creator God. And there is healing powers in prayer. So let's just try to reduce everything I've said here in the last 45 minutes down to one statement. What can be our take-home message? Eat every color of the rainbow every day. We actually know it's the pigments in these colorful fruits and vegetables that do a great deal of the healing. They are the antioxidants, the pigments, the yellows and the greens and the reds, etc.
Most of the nutrients is in the skin of the food.
That's true for most of them. Yes, it's right close to the skin. It certainly is. And so if you can eat the food with the skin, or just barely take the skin off, like if you've boiled a potato and you're getting ready to make potato salad, if you're removing just the very thin little skin, most of the nutrients are going to stay there. But if you can eat them, if it's a young potato and you can eat it with it,
Yes.
better to leave the skin
Yes.
on, yes, and eat it, absolutely, because that's where the nutrition is. Squashes, yes, all those kind of good things. Next week, we're going to be talking about managing gene expression. Oh, I have diabetes. My mother has diabetes. My aunt has diabetes. It runs in my family, therefore I'm going to have diabetes. Is that true? We'll talk about it next week. I want to leave you with this thought. I've seen his ways and will heal him. Wow. God talking again. I will lead him also and restore comforts unto him and to his mourners. So, in just a few moments, we're going to break into our exercise segment, and then we're going to get in our groups. And in the groups, I want you to discuss together the dangers of oxidative stress, and then identify any recent situation where you feel like you were exposed to free radicals. Was it ionizing radiation like X-rays or CT scans or something like that? Was it
A brownie.
was it a brownie, or was it metabolism? Was it fried foods? Was it something else? Try to discover what that might have been in your situation. And what behaviors have you done in the past week that worsened oxidative stress based on what we've talked about here? And what can you do today to reduce your need for insulin? And what can you do this week to improve your unseen problem of oxidative stress? So see if you can write those into a SMART goal. Well, we'll see you next week. But in the meantime, Debbie, you're on.